Thank you for tuning into the Lolberts. This is where libertarians get together to talk about the issues you really care about. It's a different kind of a liberty program. We're the liberty talk show that is not hosted by a left-wing grifter or a narcissistic cult leader, no! Write down our toll-free website. You're going to need it. It's www.lolberts.com. http://www.lolberts.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our program. Here we are together again on the RSS feed. How you been? Who are you?
I have been great. My name is Matt, coming out of Austin, Texas. And what a good day. What a good weekend this is already.
Yeah, today was a good day for sure.
I can't even stress like how happy I am about the verdict, and how I was actually kind of shocked because the length of deliberations, I was like, this is going to be a hung jury. Like there's someone holding out.
Wait. I think we're burying the lead here a little bit.
Okay, sure.
What trial are we talking about? Because remember, we got to keep things a little evergreen. But
right.
this is
okay,
important.
So,
this is important even long term, and we'll get into why.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. That's a good point. For the many generations to come, which will be listening to this. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about the historic Kyle Rittenhouse trial. It's been over a year in the making, and it was wild. I watched almost the entire trial, just had it going in the background while I was working.
Again, I think we're still bearing the lead. What was the trial about? Who was this Kyle Rittenhouse kid?
I'm really good at podcasting, all right?
Well, to be fair, you didn't do nationally syndicated talk radio like I have.
Right, of course.
Not to toot my own horn, toot,
yeah.
But
humble brag. Anyway, so what happened last year during the Summer of Love, which was when we had the massive riots / protests, but mostly riots related to Black Lives Matter. One of these riots happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And this was due to an individual named Jacob Blake, who was not dead, but who was shot several times by police. There was a huge uproar about this, people believing it was an unjustified shooting. I'm not so sure that it was unjustified in the first place, but it led to riots happening in this pretty small town. And as a result, a 17-year-old white supremacist crossed state lines with an illegal gun that he did not belong to him, and his mom dropped him off, and he went there explicitly to commit murder, which he did. He murdered 2 people and disarmed.
He crossed state lines. He drove from Illinois to Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, again, he drove from Illinois to Wisconsin. It's not like he was in his front yard and he was approached by a group of individuals who posed an imminent threat to his life. He drove across state lines.
Yeah, so.
and honestly, to me, that's the worst part, is that he crossed state lines.
Yeah, he's a state cruiser.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no crime worse than crossing state lines.
Yeah.
But in reality, what actually happened was this young man did cross state lines, but not with a weapon. He went to a friend's house. He lived right on the border between 2 states. Crossed the border basically on the second or third day of riots to go and clean up graffiti and to protect local businesses from further getting destroyed. I mean, like, one of the car lots there had been destroyed the night previous, and they torched every single car in the parking lot. And if you've seen the photos of it, it looks like Iraq, like it was like Fallujah or something in 2004. Like, it's crazy. So
it looks like public housing.
Yeah. And so he and some other locals, some of them, I think, at least one of them that he was with was ex-military, but a lot of them, basically, they got their trusty AR-15s and plate carriers and whatnot, and the idea was to go and basically stand in front of these businesses just as a deterrence to any further violence. Throughout the course of the night, he got separated by the police from his main group, and was then chased by a pedophile who had threatened to murder him earlier in the night.
Multiple times, I guess.
Multiple times.
Twice.
This man had also been
documented, I guess, at least in
right.
But there was also people saying that he was doing it to other people as well. So,
yeah, I think he was probably pretty indiscriminate with his threats. But he was this guy Rosenbaum. As we discovered only a few short days after the incident, people dug up this guy's criminal records, like big time. Child rapist, excuse me.
Grapist.
Don't want to get the stream taken down.
Well, we won't get it taken down. We'll get demonetized, but my channel's already been demonetized, so that's why I have to take super chats through Streamlabs, which, by the way, it makes me keep 100% of my tips. So, and I don't have to give.
So, does it go over to Streamlabs? YouTube is not our friend anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm streaming on it, but they have their own little super chat system.
Okay.
Yeah. So I see it right away and everything. It just doesn't show up as a super chat in YouTube chat. But it does show up in my thing. So.
Okay. Is that through? Does Restream take all the super chats or whatever from? Does it amalgamate all of them from the various sites?
Except for Twitter, what it does is that it'll take chats. Like, so if someone comments on D Live, it'll repost it onto the chat in YouTube and everywhere else.
Oh, okay.
Twitter is a little bit different because you're responding with tweets, so it's a little bit different. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways,
well, at any rate, Mr. Rosenbaum, this kind of just mentally unstable serial rapist who had threatened Kyle several times, tried to make good on that threat, chased Kyle into one of the parking lots, and was intent on killing him and getting his weapon away from him. Kyle was forced to defend himself.
Well, how do you know what he was thinking if he didn't actually say those words?
Well, I don't have a direct metaphysical connection to his mind. So you're right. Like, honestly, he could have been doing anything.
But I think it's probably a good indication because he screamed "fuck you" and tried to grab the gun.
Right. So. And it has been so Kyle was forced to defend himself. He shoots Rosenbaum 4 times in under a second, killing him. And the reason that we know that he was reaching for the gun beyond just having it on video, he actually had powder burns on his hand from where he had tried to grab the oh my God, the barrel. I'm having a boomer moment here. Tried to grab the barrel of the rifle.
He tried to grab the shoulder thing that went up.
Yeah. The barrel. There's the shoulder thing that goes up. There's what was the black thing. What are the others? The other possible attachments we've got here. Yeah, but at any rate, this kicked off. Basically, all hell broke loose. There were crowds there. He immediately turned around to say, "Okay, I'm running back to the police line." Began running down the street towards the police line. People were shouting that he shot someone, and a mob then chased him, and 3 more people tried to kill him. And he was forced to defend himself. Again, someone hit him over the head with a rock or something like that, knocking his hat off.
All he wanted to do was take his hat, obviously.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Which is the proper way to remove someone's hat is with a rock from behind. Yeah. That's science. But then another individual tried to basically break his head open with a skateboard while he was on the ground.
Huber.
And I don't remember that guy's name.
Huber.
Huber. Yeah, Jacob Huber. And Kyle, again, forced to defend himself, shot him in the chest and killed him essentially instantly.
Well, he actually hit him twice. So when they first threw the rock at him, he was running. He was still running towards the police line. He actually told...
Right.
Grosskreutz, it's always harder to pronounce the name, Gage Grosskreutz. Yeah. He told Gage Grosskreutz that he was going to the police. He said that he misheard it, but he had it on camera. Mm-hmm. He said that he was going to the police because he just shot somebody.
I would usually give someone the benefit of the doubt in terms of being like, yeah, they probably just misremembered that or something, or maybe they didn't hear them clearly. But Grosskreutz, as we'll find out, lied repeatedly about essentially every aspect of this story. So I don't even believe him.
By the way, every time that I'm talking, I stop and I turn towards the jury and then I say it and then I look back at you. Go ahead.
Right. So they know that you're lying.
Right. So he hit him on the head. Huber hit him on the head with the skateboard after the rock, and then after that he stumbled and fell because he said he just lost balance, which probably means he had a concussion at that point.
Yeah.
Then Jump Kick Man came in, which I love that name.
I know, I love it too. So Jump Kick Man, who has only within the last week been finally identified, is a man who ran in and saw what was happening, had no idea what was actually happening, and tried to he leapt into the air and tried to stomp on Kyle's head. Kyle fired at him but missed, and that guy ran away. And then finally, Mr. Grosskreutz, who had been chasing him the entire time, who initially had only been filming, but as soon as other people said, get him, he shot someone or something like that. Yeah, cranium him. He pulled his Glock from the small of his back and began chasing him.
Which, by the way, he said that he had lost it earlier in the night to investigators and to his... I guess he's suing the city for $10 million.
Yeah, which is hilarious because he told that to the jury's face. Yeah, and the jury would be the people paying him. Right.
But he also admitted that little fact that he had a gun that night. Here we go.
Yeah, this lawsuit. Well, let's first describe what happens to Grosskreutz, and then we can get into his civil suit.
Spaghetti.
Grosskreutz is running up on Kyle, has his phone and his gun in his hand. Kyle shoots Huber, the skateboard man, and then Grosskreutz approaches him. Kyle turns and points his rifle at him, and Grosskreutz puts his hands up and backs off. Kyle lowers his rifle, and then Grosskreutz lunges at him, pointing his gun at Kyle's head, at which point Kyle is once again forced to defend himself, and he shoots and doesn't kill Grosskreutz, but vaporizes his right bicep, which is the arm that was holding the gun. As a result, Grosskreutz was not able to let go of the handgun, and there's video of this. There are like high definition photographs of this, or high resolution rather. High definition could be 720p. That'd be pretty low. But you can see his bicep is just completely blown off and gone. And it's at that point that the crowd finally gets the idea that, hey, maybe we shouldn't try to kill the guy with the AR-15. Kyle then gets up.
Brilliant people, by the way.
What's that?
Brilliant people, by the way.
Oh, I know. It's just like real big brain moves here. So Kyle gets up and he continues running to the police line, and he gets to the police, puts his hands up. He's trying to turn himself in, walks up to a squad car to say, hey, I just shot someone. And the police spray mace at him.
Brilliant police work.
Yeah, I mean, it was just amazing. They're like, don't you know there's someone, we're responding to shots fired. The guy with the rifle with his hands up, so ridiculous.
And the greatest thing is during his trial, all of these boomers didn't even know how to use a TV.
Oh my God.
It's just like, am I surrounded by idiots? Yes. Dude, yes, Kyle, you are.
I was sitting there basically biting my nails the entire time. So I was like, they're going to send him to prison because they don't know how to open PDF. This is horrible. So anyway, Kyle goes back to finds his group, tells them what's happened. He's tried to turn himself in, and basically he gets a ride back 20 miles to his hometown, immediately tells his mom what happened, and they go and turn themselves into the police. From there, this becomes this national, episode where the media immediately jumps on this, says that he's a white supremacist, he's a mass shooter. He went there with the intent to kill Black Lives Matter protesters, and the police then arrest him. I think it was like the next day. I could be wrong on that, but they arrest him and charge him immediately without doing any sort of investigation. And by this point, there were so many people, independent journalists on the ground, and just people who were, rioting, who had been recording, that all of these videos of the entire incident gets put online, and it's clear exactly what happened, that this was clear-cut self-defense from the beginning, and they charged him with murder.
Yeah. It's insane.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
And the amount of just blatant lies that have been told about this kid for a year by the corporate press has just been unbelievable. And it is my sincere belief that they knew exactly what had happened.
I mean, all of these videos were up. Some of them were being streamed live. The Drew Hernandez videos were live.
Yeah.
They were being streamed live on Twitter and YouTube and all that stuff. So that was instant. So that was the first shooting. The second shooting was up within like 15 minutes on Twitter. Yeah. And we all saw them, and we were like, wow, this is not what I was told happened at all. It's obviously it's self-defense. Maybe there was some information that happened beforehand that, that he was provoking these things, but we never got any of that information. We just kept getting told these lies about things like, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?
Or your lying eyes. Exactly. Yeah. It's, do you believe what you see or do you believe what we tell you?
And the whole thing does not make sense. If there was an active shooter, let's just say that he was an active shooter. He was actively shooting
in the most technical sense.
Yeah, yes. In the most like autistic way. If he was like a mass shooter who was just there to just, unload his mag, to use a term that Grage Grosskreutz used, to unload his mag on some protesters, there was ample opportunities for him to do it at the at the car lot. So there was hundreds of people just standing around bashing cars. He could have just unloaded if he wanted to, but that's not what he did. It's not what he did. He ran towards it, and he went there, shot someone who was actively pursuing him. He only shot the people who were actively trying to hit him or did hit him, and that was it. And then once everybody backed off and ran off, he went straight to the police and turned himself in. How could you, in good faith, try to say that this person was there just to shoot someone? If he was there to just shoot someone, he had plenty of opportunities to get his kill ratio up. But he showed
remarkable restraint.
I don't know if I was put in that same position that I would have done as well as he did, as lawful as he did, considering all of the circumstances.
Dude,
getting hit in the head, having extremely good trigger discipline, and he only ever hit people that were hitting him. Right. That was it. There wasn't even like a ricochet that hit somebody. There wasn't like a bullet going through one person and hitting another person, even though he was using steel metal jacket?
Steel metal jacket. Yeah. Oh God, that was another part of the trial when for basically no
AR-14.
Yeah, they're talking about the different types of ammunition and what they're capable of, and they were literally wrong about every single detail. As all these filthy no-gunners. Oh my God! I was like screaming.
Mr. Rittenhouse, is it true that a hollow point bullet will explode on impact?
It's meant to hit a deer and then explode inside of it. I was like, oh my God! Oh my God!
To quote the great late philosopher Norm Macdonald,
"What are you, retarded?" So I know you're retarded, but what are you, Down syndrome?
I love that clip.
May he rest in peace.
Yes.
Greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time. So there's a lot of things. Like I want to before we really get into the weeds, which we already kind of have. There has been a lot of people who have gone on Twitter and various other things, even told me personally, I'm not going to name names, who were like, I don't care about this trial. It's all just a waste of time. Well, I agree that it was a waste of time, but not in the way that they're describing it.
Not in the way that they mean. Yeah.
It's all a big distraction, especially from the COVID stuff, which maybe that was the intent of it. That may have been, maybe some intent of it by, maybe some of the news networks. Let's stop talking about the COVID stuff. Everybody hates it. Let's focus on this. Let's just ruin this kid's life to distract everybody from it for a while. But I guess in the sense that it is. But this trial really kind of opened a lot of people's eyes up to prosecutorial misconduct, police misconduct, and media misconduct who weren't aware of it at all. Boomers really love prosecutors for some weird reason. They just love cops. And they love prosecutors. And now they're finally getting a taste of, what happens to everyday people every day. And they were completely unaware of it.
This is what prosecutors do. Like, the idea that we have of the court system is that you have the defense that is defending, the person who's been accused of whatever. And then you have the prosecutor, and together they're supposedly sort of trying to come to the truth of a matter. The prosecutor in particular is you would not want to prosecute, and you would not want to find someone guilty who was innocent. And of course, that's not actually what prosecutors do. Prosecutors, a lot of the times, are elected officials. They are politicians. And when they're in court, they're not looking for the truth. They're looking for convictions. They're looking for wins, for things that they can essentially put on their resume and say, look at how many convictions I've had. I've put so many people behind bars. And the screwed up thing is that their interest in securing a conviction is much, much stronger than their interest in coming to the truth of what happened in any individual crime.
Right. So, a good prosecutor, I'm sure there's some out there.
They're in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, they died a long time ago.
Right. Yeah, they've been dead a long time.
But a good prosecutor would be like, hey, we think this guy is guilty. However, we found some evidence that may contradict the story. We're going to also put it into the record as well, just so we can hash out what's going on here. Because we may be wrong. That's the way a good prosecutor is supposed to handle things. That's not what happened here. We had a prosecutor who lied multiple times about the law to the jury.
Right. And
the judge allowed it for reasons I can't understand. Well, I guess he's biased.
Fathom.
He's biased towards Kyle Rittenhouse, obviously. That's why he's letting the prosecution sit there and say things like, when you have a gun and they don't, you lose your right to self-defense. It's like, what?
Right, which is not, I don't care if that's your own personal musings. That's not the law.
No. And that's what they're supposed to be charging him on. It's not the law, not his personal ethics, but the law.
Right.
What are some amazing things that were happening there? So first of all, there was a video of Kyle Rittenhouse where I guess he posted it on TikTok. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but he posted it. Yeah. Which, by the way, love his name, 4 Doors More Whores.
Oh yeah. It was beautiful. And the fact that they brought it up in court and asked him about it.
Now it's like a meme. I love it.
Yeah.
They asked him, okay, so in the video, there was a video of him sitting in a parking lot with his friend, and they were watching a bunch of looters in Chicago. They were watching a bunch of looters loot a CVS, and he said, "Man, I wish I had my AR-15." And they ended, because he didn't have his gun. And he didn't say he wanted to shoot them all. He just said, "Man, I wish I had my AR-15."
Had he crossed state lines at this point?
No,
not yet. Okay,
no.
Okay. Just want to be sure.
But he had the video was just like, "Man, I had my AR-15." After the video ends, he calls the police, which is what you're supposed to do under the law, right? Correct? You're not supposed to take matters into your own hands. But the prosecution wanted to introduce this evidence to prove that Kyle Rittenhouse has vigilante tendencies, because when the judge was like, but this is just him musing on a social media video that, he wanted to do something. People make comments like that all the time, but they don't really mean it. Right. He's like, but no, there actually was an action. He actually called the police afterwards. And the judge was like, but that's what he's supposed to do. And that doesn't show that he's a vigilante. That shows that he's
responsible.
The opposite of a vigilante by referring it to, the monopoly on the use of force, which is what you're supposed to do under the law. So he was like, I'm not going to admit this as evidence. So during when Kyle Rittenhouse, which he took the stand, which baffled a lot of lawyers.
Baffled me. I mean, I would have been like, take the fifth.
Yeah. But I guess learning the backstory of it, there actually was a little bit of a backstory, which was they decided that there was some key information that none of the witnesses had provided that needed to be exposed. And that they had also practiced this with a mock jury and a mock prosecutor. So they went over every scenario. They did this, and it was something that he wanted to do. Like he felt that he wanted to tell his story. And so they ran through every possible scenario of what kind of questions would be asked. But during this line of questioning, he was asked about this evidence, which was not supposed to be admissible as evidence. And this was not liked by the judge at all. He excused the jury and he chewed him out. By the way, this was after the prosecution asked Kyle why he was silent up until the day of his court hearing.
Right.
Which is...
Or was that Kyle or was that someone else that they asked?
No, that was Kyle.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's a gross violation of his Fifth Amendment rights.
Right.
And they said, if it happens again...
Which, as the judge said, has been basic law in this country for 40 or 50 years.
Yeah.
And he was astonished that he even brought it up.
Yeah. And the defense was like, this guy knows better. Like, this guy has been a trial lawyer for a long time. He should know better. And if it happens again, we're going to ask for a mistrial with prejudice, which means that the case will be dismissed and you could not try him again for those actions under double jeopardy laws.
Yeah.
So after that happened, then he asked him the question about evidence that was not supposed to be admitted as evidence. And judge just chews him out, screams at him. And then, of course, being Little Binger, decided he was going to get
the prosecutor.
Yeah, Binger being the prosecutor, who the other guy, Krause. Oh, we'll get into Krause.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, we'll get into pizza attorney. Little Binger starts talking back to him, which this has been like a constant thing with the prosecution. They had been constantly talking back to the judge. And each time the judge gets, you can see he's very upset about this.
Seething.
Yeah. Not coping, just seething.
Seething.
And so he just starts snapping at him. And he's like, not only did you bring this up without asking me, which is what you're supposed to do in this in any courtroom. Like, this is after you violated his Fifth Amendment rights. Like, you're right over the line, or maybe you've actually crossed. Actually, I'm not going to get into it. But this sort of thing does happen all the time in non-publicized trials, like all the time. Will the judge rightfully react in the same way to the prosecution if the cameras aren't on?
Who knows? And it's also just dependent on the judge that you have. Like this guy. See, he was, I think, exceedingly fair. I think that
a little too fair sometimes.
He was too fair because he allowed the prosecution to get away with just some absolutely wild stuff. But imagine having a judge that wasn't this ancient boomer, who hadn't been brought up in, like the idea of applying the law, as it's written and as it's supposed to be. Fairly applied. If you had some sort of activist judge, I mean, they could have just put this kid away without, even with a good defense.
Yeah.
And so I think he was remarkably lucky in the fact that he got the judge that he did. And I think the judge took some big risks with admitting a lot of the evidence, not dismissing the trial. I think he was basically saying, like, to himself, reading the jury, knowing that the prosecution was not playing with the jury, that they were as equally disgusted by this stuff as he was. I'm thinking, they're going to do the right thing. And if they don't, I have this motion to dismiss with prejudice. I don't know that that's what he was thinking, but
he also could have done a directed verdict too, which is where they were like, there's no way for a jury to reasonably come to the verdict that they came to, so I'm overriding it. A judge can do that, but they would have to prove after the fact. They would have to prove that the evidence was always slighted overwhelmingly in one particular way. So let's say that there was, I don't know, someone who assassinated a president in, 1963, and there was 53 pieces of evidence that pointed towards one particular person and zero evidence pointing in any other direction. No relevance to any actual case, obviously.
Right. This is completely hypothetical. Yeah, this is completely hypothetical.
Clearly it has to be this, let's say communist guy, right? And all of the evidence is pointing one direction, and the jury goes, nah, actually, we think it's the mob. He could be like, again, to quote the great philosopher Norm Macdonald.
Are you retarded? So I know you're not retarded, but what are you, Down syndrome?
And then he can be like, okay,
so I have a
he's
question.
guilty.
Didn't Oswald, like 2 months prior or something like that, he was in like, he might have been in Cuba or something, but he was at some embassy and said he was going to kill the president or something. There's some weird thing where a couple of months beforehand.
If you want to get into JFK, we can.
Let's not. Let's save that for a different one, because I haven't looked at the JFK thing since I was in high school. So.
Long story short, he actually went into the FBI building and threatened the lives of one of the agents who was investigating him because of something, and they didn't follow up on it. Had they followed up on it and arrested him, he would have been in jail.
Right.
During the time of the
which,
presidency.
just goes to show you that the feds were involved. Why wouldn't they? I mean, obviously they
actually destroyed that evidence to save face. And it wasn't until years later that the FBI agent was like, I fucked up.
Yeah.
I really fucked up.
I did a bit of an oopsie.
I almost got fired for it, but we decided to put it buried under the rug. Yeah. Anyways, where were we? Oh, yeah. So the other defense attorney in this, we have Little Binger, which everybody calls him Little Binger because he kind of looks like
Littlefinger from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, or CIA guy from Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Same actor. But I think he looks more like a dollar store Gary Oldman.
For sure.
I think he's looking to call Batman.
Like if you look at him playing Commissioner Gordon in the Batman movies, like that's Binger.
Yeah. Except younger and more gay. Which,
by the way, no. The one that looks like Binger the most is when he played the bad guy in Air Force One.
Oh, geez. It's the
haircut, like
it's been
everything.
A while. I saw that in theaters. That was the last time I saw it, was when it was in theaters.
Yeah, I saw it on video one time, and that was it.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's not one of those like you have to see it. It's okay. It's all right.
No, it's just a meh 90s action flick.
Yeah, with Harrison Ford.
Right.
Get off my plane. I'm too old for this shit. What, you want me to play Indiana Jones again in 10 years? Fuck me.
Oh my God. And then again in 20.
No, stop.
I know. I can't believe it. It's so bad. Like every franchise from my childhood. It's like, I hate Star Wars now. Like that was the defining cultural touchstone of my childhood. And I literally I hate it. I don't want to ever watch the movies again. Like I have no desire to keep watching The Mandalorian. Like it's just so bad and so tainted by Disney. And they've done that to Indiana Jones. You know, they're going to do it to Ghostbusters again. It's like, let these things be dead, please.
Is the new Ghostbusters bad? I haven't heard anything about it yet.
I think that, I have a friend who's really excited about it.
I'm
and
cautiously
he's
optimistic.
excited about it is because when he saw the trailer, he was like, it doesn't look like they're going to like insult me as the audience. You know? Like he's like, that's all I want at this point is for these, if they're going to make something on a franchise that I liked, for them to not spit on me as a fan of the thing I liked. So I think they're getting the message a little bit that people really hate what they're doing with all these properties, but it's just, I don't know. I just hate all of these things.
So I can understand if there was like a side movie that really explored Anakin and Padme, their relationship as like a side movie. It's not, part of the whole movie, and be like, oh, it's going to be like a little cute little rom-com. Okay, that's fine. And I'm fine with like Ghostbusters going like, hey, we're going to do something in the same universe. It's not going to be like the kind of Harold Ramis comedy / sci-fi thing. It's gonna go in a little bit more of an action-y kind of, what's the term? What the fuck? Like It or Stranger Things, like that kind of, kids, whatever. Like, okay, that's fine. You're not insulting my intelligence at this point. But Ghostbusters 2016, which they later renamed because everybody was like going like, why are you making me say 1984 every single time that I say Ghostbusters, the original? Okay, answer the call. I think that's what it is now. Don't insult my intelligence with that thing. But anyway,
I don't know.
I can't do Star Wars.
Has kids, and I don't want to see a movie with kids. I have no desire to see any of these things. I'm like, just make something new and interesting, and maybe I'll watch it. But at this point, probably not.
I'll check it out, but I'm cautiously optimistic because I think they're going somewhere different with it, and it's not insulting to the to the film itself. Mm-hmm. If they're doing their own thing and we're like, hey, we're kind of doing our own thing, sure, it's going to have some comedic elements, but it's going to be more of like an action-y thing. Like, okay, fine, that's fine, as long as we're distinguishing it from the main line or whatever. But there's some things in there where I'm just like, really, you're actually going to show us Fungus Bowls and More's collection? Just out of it.
I know. It's like, hey, do you remember this thing? It's so stupid.
Yeah, let's not make it Rogue One.
I mean, I like Rogue One.
It's just fan service. Let's just admit that's all it is.
It wasn't just fan service. It was actually a decent prequel that expanded things in a way that made sense, but was also reverent of the source material. And it was a fun action movie.
Fun, yes.
Cope and seethe, all right?
Look, it's fun in the same way Avatar was fun. Blocked and reported, right?
It was definitely better than Avatar, but I can't say that you're wrong.
Okay.
Anyway, let's get back to the important shit. I don't think that we've had an episode
Star Wars.
That
I can't watch anymore. Oh, that
Wars.
important thing. That important thing. Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, we got this awful prosecutor who looks like Gary Oldman. That started that big tangent, and we've also got this other prosecutor that's on his team that is this just fat piece of shit who was mean and nasty every single time that he spoke, and everybody hated him. He also lied repeatedly, but the first time that I saw him is when they were interviewing a witness. It was someone who had taken video and photographs. He's just a citizen journalist, and when he testified with the defense, he said that the prosecution had asked him to change his original statement. And so the prosecution, of course, comes up, and Lunchbox, Fat Man, comes up and he goes, so you remember coming to our office, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and you remember how nice I was? And I said I really liked your photographs and blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
hold on. Guess. You're a little bit of a voice actor. Let me give you some voice actor. Make him sound fatter, because he actually does sound fat. His voice is a little bit wet. So you came into our office and you asked us if we were fair to you. Is that correct? Man, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Is Jimmy John's open?
It was so funny because it was like you could tell he was hurt, that like he thought this guy was his friend or something. Mm-hmm. And then he keeps asking him, and he's like, okay, and after we asked you this, we did not ask you to change your statement, right? And he goes, no, you did. You definitely did. And
the more he prodded about that, it came off as, hey, we were just being your friend. We were just being your friend, and you seem kind of a little autistic, maybe a little bit on the spectrum, and we were kind of nudging you to come towards our direction, kind of exploiting your disability there. That's the way it came off to me. That's the way it came off to a lot of people, and I think that's what came off to the jury. And the more he kept pressing, the more he was trying to impeach his own. By the way, this was their witness. Yeah. Every single one of their witness. They came into They came into the thing with this whole narrative that he went there with the intent to shoot people, and he found an opportunity with somebody who instigated a fight with him, and then he just used that to shoot some people. By the end of the trial, it was no. Kyle actually provocated by pointing a gun, because you can tell by like 3 pixels and this blown up thing
up to like 3 million.
Yeah, that took 20 hours of work. And software that even the expert couldn't explain how it worked, to make it look like he was kind of pointing the gun in one particular direction, only if he was left-handed, which he's not. So like they kept every single person that they brought on, their own witnesses were like, no, he threatened us. No.
Yeah.
No, I have an idea of what he was thinking, because he said, fuck you, and tried to grab his gun. It was some of the other ones, like Cherovisi, which I think is the best. I don't know why they didn't put him on cross, because every single time he's been on cross, like it's almost textbook perfect, like how you do a cross examination.
Yeah.
And Richards, not so much. He wasn't bad. He just wasn't great, which I think suggests Cherovisi.
So Richards was the main attorney for the defense, and Cherovisi was his kind of his backup or whatever. He's the bald guy, and yeah, that guy was excellent. I mean, he delivered a couple of the punches in that trial that I think just sealed it.
Yeah, one of which was with Gage Grosskreutz.
Grosskreutz on the stand, Mr. Missing his bicep.
Correct.
Cherovisi goes up and asks him some questions about exactly what happened. And, you know, he had already said, you know, that he was not threatening Kyle and all this other nonsense, and he was afraid for his life, and Kyle just shot him. And Kyle had, you know, re-racked his weapon. Not that would mean anything to begin with. But he asks him, he's like, okay, so you approach with your gun in your hand, and Kyle points his rifle at you, and then you put your hands up, and Kyle does not fire. Is that correct?
Correct.
Like, okay. Then you lunge forward, pointing your gun at him, at his head.
Take a step toward, advance on him.
It's only then that he pulls the trigger, and he goes, no.
No, he said yes. He said correct.
Well, no, because there's at one point he's like, you pointed your gun at him, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, let's try this again. He walks him through
the pictures.
And finally gets him to admit that Kyle only shot when he pointed his gun at him in self-defense.
And he said correct. And then they show Kyle, he looks like he's about to cry because he's just so happy that he just completely imploded his own case.
Yeah.
Not only imploded his own case, but imploded Gage's, which it was over.
His civil suits against the city.
His civil suits didn't have a chance in hell. But
no, they didn't.
Now they definitely
really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because so here's what he did. After he gets shot, the next day he gets an attorney, and he makes all these statements to the police that.
I didn't have a gun. I lost my gun.
Rittenhouse. He didn't even say that he didn't have a gun. He just never mentioned that he had one at all.
Well, actually, he told an investigator that he dropped his gun, like he lost his gun before the incident happened.
Which he was carrying illegally that night.
He did not
establish that in court. From what do you have a concealed carry license? He's like, yes. They're like, was it valid at the time that you were carrying your gun? He said, no.
Well, I thought it was. Valid.
And then, so
by the way, why did you lose your license again? I don't think they asked him this, but he was actually guilty of a robbery, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He was guilty of robbery. He'd had like DUIs and stuff, and he decides to sue the city for $10 million in damages.
Brilliant.
Because he got shot. And in his case that he makes, he did not tell them that he was carrying a gun at the time. And so all of this is on the record of him finally coming forth and saying that, yeah, I had a gun on me. Yes, I pointed it at the defendant and all this shit. So and he's telling this to the jury, the people who would, as taxpayers, be paying this out to him. I mean, he completely just imploded his own case. And this is a thing where it's like, Gage Grosskreutz is also... He's one of these, he's like a literal communist, one of these revolutionary types. He's part of, various kind of Antifa affiliated groups. And
you're a part of Kenosha's People's Revolution, right?
Right. Yeah. No. People's Liberation Army.
You spoke at their event? Yes. And during that event, you rose your fist and shouted "Viva la Revolution"? Correct. But you're not a member. I'm affiliated.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, but it's like these are the kind of people that Antifa are. They're really not that smart.
No.
They're
not sending their best.
No, certainly not. But this guy, I think he really thought that he was going to go in there and just get this kid prosecuted, and he was going to get his big payday, and that it was all going to be in the name of the revolution, and that it was going to be. He had like some sort of fantasy worldview. that did not come true.
But my favorite
thing, getting your bicep blown off by a 17-year-old that you were trying to murder might make you rethink something about your life, but apparently it didn't.
No, by the way, his Twitter account got hacked, which, by the way, he was sort of gloating on Twitter about like, wait till I talk about the, the misfiring. Oof. That destroyed him too. But my favorite moment,
the misfire that did not happen,
right? Because if there was a misfire,
no, there wasn't. Yeah, there was no misfire.
Okay, so
there was no misfire. He did not clear around. It doesn't happen on video. They did not recover an unspent shell. Anything like
I mean, do you have what is it called? An AK-15?
Yeah.
By the way, I had someone go.
This is the thing. It's like we literally, like, everyone always criticizes Ayn Rand. Her novels are so unrealistic. Blah blah blah. It's like, no, we live in one.
Yeah.
We literally. This guy's name is basically Gross Crust. Like it's an Ayn Rand villain name. Am I wrong?
You're not. Dying. Oh shit. You're not wrong at all.
Yeah.
But I think one of my favorite moments was this one.
You look like at that point you're moving. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So with him 30 feet ahead of you, running away from you, at that point you pull your firearm and begin to chase him, correct?
No.
You don't begin to chase him?
Nope. No, I do not.
You head in the direction that he's running. Yes?
Correct.
But you just happen to be running in that direction? It has nothing to do with Kyle Rittenhouse running in that direction?
No, it does have to do with the defendant running in that direction, yes.
Okay, so you are trying to chase him down?
No.
Aren't you Patrick Starr? And this is your ID. I found this ID in this wallet. And if that's the case, this must be your wallet.
That makes sense to me.
Then take it.
It's not my wallet.
Exact same energy.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not sending their best. So they lost on that charge.
Basically, I think sealed the deal for the not guilty on that portion of it. Mm-hmm. But the prosecution, they continued. It's like every single day, like especially towards the end of the trial, I thought it was going to be that, like, oh man, like we're not going to get to see the judge yell at them again. But it was every single day they did something so outrageous that they'd have to, tell the jury to leave, and the judge would sit there and chew them out. This was all the way up until the end.
And the jury knows that. They're like, why are we keep getting kicked out every time this guy gets on the stand?
Right.
Every single time. He must be doing something really bad.
So the prosecutors, knowing that they essentially have no case at this point, decide to pull this Hail Mary where they get this, they have this drone footage that no one's seen yet. That is, it's a very wide angle. It's from very far away. And they, provide this evidence to the state crime lab, and they provide it to the defense.
A low res copy of it, which they knew at the time they were giving a low res copy.
Getting to that.
Okay.
So they then put their whole case now is going to rest on a still frame from this video that they show in court that they blow up and enhance using some sort of AI algorithm to upscale the image to enhance.
Can you make it clear?
And
can you blow it up?
they bring this video in and they're playing it on, and it's super low resolution. They make the judge watch it, and they put it on, and the defense is like, what is this? You're first of all, you're upscaling this super low resolution image. How do we know that this is actually doing anything that's accurate? Is it adding more information? I'm actually saying what they should have said, because this was where, like,
boomers didn't understand technology.
The boomers did not know how to open PDF here, and they really should have, because there was so much shit where they're talking about upscaling this image. They're like, well, does this add more color to the image? And what they should have said is, this generating additional information in the image. And they were saying, oh no, it doesn't. It's just using the information that's there, even though it ends up with a higher pixel count and it's not the same image. But they're blowing this up, and when they're watching this video in court, they're also playing it on a 4K TV. So they're taking a super low resolution image, which is already being, stretched to fit the dimensions of the TV. But 4K TVs also do their own upscaling on this.
And it annoys the hell out of me because it's a pain in the ass to turn that shit off.
Yeah, it's and the judge is sitting there. They're making him watch this, and he's like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. This is just a blur. And they're like, oh, well, our version's better. And the defense is like, you're what? Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, nothing. I mean, it's just playing wrong. And then the defense is kind of like, okay, let's ask them about that. And so they finally, after evidence is closed, over the weekend, they get the video footage that the prosecution had, which was substantially higher resolution.
We're talking about, I think it was, I think the original was like something like, 360p versus 720p, or is it 240?
It's a really, really weird. It was like 1700 by 850 or something. It's some weird resolution. Non-standard.
Right, but I mean, like roughly speaking,
roughly speaking, I would say it was roughly high definition, like roughly like a 720p image, probably maybe a little bit higher.
And they had something along the lines of like a 240. It was like early YouTube.
Early YouTube. Yeah, like 240p basically. And they were essentially, the idea that the defense had, they're like, okay, well, they're taking, like probably about 5 or 6 pixels that are supposed to represent Kyle and blowing that up. And like, that's supposed to play to the jury, whatever, not realizing that they were going to have a much higher definition image. And so they basically allowed it in. They find out that this video is not the one that they were given. And they start grilling the prosecution about it. And, this is after they've already filed a motion to dismiss based on this evidence that shouldn't have been put in. Mm-hmm. And they go back and forth in court, and they get caught in a straight up lie.
I don't know. I don't know what happened, Your Honor. I sent them a thing and I put it in their Dropbox, but I mean, I have an iPhone and they probably have Android. And I think that maybe AirDrop converted it to a lower definition and then renamed the file. And I know you don't understand this. And I think they're exploiting the fact that you don't understand technology, but basically
they are, not us.
It messed up the pixels. And it's too complicated. And, you wouldn't understand. Honest mistake.
It's an honest mistake. So it should go into evidence. I think it should remain. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so one of the other supporting defense attorneys, who wasn't one of the ones who was making oral arguments, but she's sitting there and she's like, I didn't open this on my phone. I opened it from my Gmail account on my computer, and this file name that you provided me is different from the one that is in the state's crime lab. It's not the same file. And there's no way that it would, the file name wouldn't change on its own. You had to have done this. And like, no. Maybe, and this is when Lunchbox is like, oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe Mr. Binger changed the name. He's like trying to throw Binger under the bus because he knows he's basically fucked at this point. And he's like, no, but we should still let this in. And the judge is like, well, okay, if we're going to continue talking about this, we're going to have to put you under oath. And they basically go like white as a sheet because they know they will go to jail over this because they're lying. And then the lady pops in one more time. She goes, actually, I just checked the metadata on both files. And the low resolution file that you sent to us has a creation date that's 21 minutes later than the creation date of the file that was in the Dropbox. That was provided to the crime lab.
By the way, I think it was Dark Crypto actually went through some of the videos, or maybe somebody did it for him and showed him. But he actually showed that, like, look, he actually had Handbrake and like one other video compression changer on the laptop. On the laptop that they had to sanitize to give to the jury, which is probably why he was like, I have a laptop.
Yeah.
I have a laptop. I'll clean it out right now.
Yeah. Let me delete the evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's completely insane. And the other thing is that, so I said that, like, that video had like a really non-standard video resolution. That was what was provided to the state crime lab was probably also manipulated. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to get some weird, some wacko resolution numbers out of any drone camera. It's going to be, 720p, 1080p, 4K, maybe 1440, something, but it's going to be some standard resolution. And it was super weird.
I know a lot of Chinese, but it may have been some cheap Chinese drone. They probably got some of those things. To be fair, to try to like play devil's advocate a bit, it's entirely possible.
I'm not willing to play devil's advocate with these people, right, because they were caught
I'm too fair
so many times.
I'm like being the judge here. I'm too fair.
Yeah, don't be the judge here. These prosecutors are evil. They were trying to put a kid in jail for the rest of his fucking life, so based on reelected lies and conjecture and it was all in the name, basically, of their own careers, which are over, I think, at this point.
I think even if they don't get reelected, which they could, which, by the way, when they come up for reelection, I'm going to donate money to whoever is running against them. Even if I think they're evil, I don't care. I don't care. I'm giving money. But I think that they're probably going to end up getting jobs at like CNN or MSNBC as their like legal expert. Kind of the way that like Fox
that would be perfect. Yeah, MSNBC would be perfect too, because during jury deliberations, MSNBC hired someone to follow the jury bus.
A journalist, and one of their own journalists.
Yeah, and to follow the jury bus.
Knew who the guy was. They tried to say, "Oh, he's not one of our reporters." Court TV was like, "No, he is one of your reporters. I've seen him around in other stories too." Yeah.
So this guy is following the jury bus. He's maybe a block or two behind them to try to avoid detection, but he hits a red light and he's going to lose him. So he runs the red light and he gets pulled over. And so then the judge the next day is like, "Yeah, we're going to investigate. This is really serious." But in the meantime, MSNBC is not allowed in the court.
What are you, retarded?
I mean, these people should be arrested. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they should be arrested for sure.
There was jury tampering. There was gross constitutional violations of the defendant's constitutional rights. The prosecutors lied in court multiple times, and this case never should have been brought to trial whatsoever.
No.
And I mean, these prosecutors are just the lowest of the low, the most evil people on the planet.
But I think there was also this kind of thing that the judge had where he was trying to be overly fair because, one, he knew the cameras were on him. Two, he knew that if there was any funny business like a mistrial with prejudice or something like that, that the people that were sitting outside of the court threatening to riot if he didn't get convicted would riot if he did something like that. And he was already... He also should have sequestered himself, but he didn't, because he kept commenting on the news, and we're just like, don't do that, please. And then immediately following it with like, one of the black. No, shut up.
And then I knew this was going to happen. The
Asian food.
One day they're breaking for lunch. Yeah, they're breaking for lunch. I was watching the trial, and they're like, "What time do you want to be back for lunch?" And he goes, "Well, we've already ordered lunch, so I'd say probably in about 45 minutes, assuming the Asian food gets here. Hopefully it's not on one of those ships on the Pacific."
Yeah, which is like, that was when the whole fucking, the ports in,
there's a supply chain crisis going. There's hundreds of ships sitting outside Long Beach Harbor trying to get in, or the Long Beach port, trying to drop off their stuff. He's literally commenting on the news. And of course, and I tweeted this immediately as soon as it happened. I was like, "They're going to call him racist."
Oh yeah,
they're going to call him racist because
they're just looking for an excuse now.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny. It was so funny. Yeah, they went after him, for talking about Asian food. Am I getting canceled because I just said the words Asian food?
No, because it's stupid.
Okay.
No one's buying it. Like, the only people that are buying. I have opinions about a lot of the people, a lot of the NPCs that are just kind of parroting stuff. I think there's a good portion of them that don't really believe all of that stuff. I think there's some, obviously there's some, but I think a lot of them are just repeating it because they're afraid to just come out and say, "Yeah, I've voted for Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or Biden or whatever, but I don't see any evidence that shows that Kyle Rittenhouse did anything wrong." There's been a couple. Right. And I'll name a couple, like even someone who I think otherwise is a shitty person, and I know him personally. He actually has like a little video on his YouTube channel where he's like, I'm not on the, I'm on the left. I voted for Bernie Sanders. Guy who I used to argue with all the time from the Venus Project. His name is VTV. He actually did like a little video about like going through all the pictures and all the evidence to be like, this guy is completely innocent and he did a good job and it's getting a lot of views and good on him. He finally did something with his life. But still, there's a lot of, and he gets a lot of backlash. There's a lot of people who are on the left who are too afraid to just say the truth. So they just kind of parrot the stuff that, sounds kind of reasonable. He crossed state lines. He had an illegal gun. They don't follow the news, or they don't follow the trial, excuse me. Well, they do follow the news, but they don't follow the trial. So they're just kind of parroting the things that they hear from Young Turks or whatever. But I think there's a good portion of them. But then there's like the true diehard believers. And I've had some exchanges with them back and forth. And as soon as you nail down something like, he's not, it's not his community. And I'll explain like, no, actually his dad works there. His best friend lives there. His grandmother lives there. He works there. Like all of these things that are undeniably true, that if they just did a 5-second Google, 5-second Google search. Well, no, city people have no excuse, especially if you live in New York. A lot of the people who work in New York, and you could attest to this because you used to live in that shithole, live in New Jersey. They cross state lines to go to work.
Right, to go to work every day.
Are you going to say that those people, like that New York City is not their community?
No investment in New York City not burning to the ground.
Oh God, you have to be insane to believe that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so dumb. It is so dumb.
Yeah. And the I don't know, the thing that was the worst thing about this trial too was, it never should have been brought to trial anyway, but it was the media coverage of the actual events from the very beginning was nothing but lies. And it was lies in service of, this agenda of progressivism and anti-racism. It was like the cathedral was in.
You can't criticize Black Lives Matter. You're not allowed.
It's that we had someone show up to a riot that was essentially a state-sanctioned riot and almost got killed and defended himself. And that is against the rules. And everyone's asking, why was he there? He shouldn't have been there. It's like, none of the rioters should have been there.
Nobody should have been there.
Nobody should have been there. Because those people were there to burn the place down, which they did. The Kenosha looked like Iraq. It was crazy. Like this idea that if the cause that is responsible for this, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, whatever it is, if that's something that the media establishment and the current regime and the state approves of, well, then it's your duty to just let them kill you. It's your duty to just let these people beat you to death in the street. And if you don't, you're a racist.
What are you, retarded?
It's literally, it's like, so there's some people who are saying like, this was never about Kyle. This was about self-defense itself. And it's like, it was both. It really was both, because you're looking at a kid who's 17 years old, really like not ready for the circumstances that he found himself in, and they hate him. And this is like, me, I don't give a shit about any of this race nonsense, but it's gotten to the point where it can't really be ignored. Is that he is, it was this 17-year-old straight white kid with an AR-15. This is like everything that the progressives hate in one thing. He embodied all of it. So they hated this kid personally for what he did. But the other part, that's my dog coughing. I'm sorry.
She's got the coof. He's a coofer.
Yeah, she's got a little coof right now, going to the vet on Monday. But the other part of this was that it was the symbolism of this is that someone stood up to these maniacs who were burning something down. They tried to kill him. He stood up for himself, and he came out on top. And so in that respect, it was about kind of putting self-defense on trial. And they want people to be demoralized and to not believe in the right to self-defense. It's like they literally some of the takes that are coming out right now too. Like it was who's the football player that always he took a knee and everybody hates him because
Colin
of that.
Kaepernick.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick. He posted something about this just yesterday that was like, this horrific verdict, just shows you how the system is built for. What's that?
I said I quote tweeted it. I had to correct myself. I didn't just retweet it like I agree.
Right? Yeah.
I quote tweeted it.
Retweet it. Retweet if you agree.
I quote tweeted it, and I think I put the Rock. Shut up, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like they literally are like, we have to reform the system. They're like, this just shows how we have to reform the system because we can't let verdicts like this happen. It's like, reform the system to what? To where you can't defend yourself if people are trying to kill you? Like, it's completely insane.
Yeah.
So no, I reject that. Fuck you. You need to be shot out of a cannon and into the sun, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
End of story.
So there's a couple takeaways from this. I talked about one, and that is letting the boomer cons, which I consider to be an enemy. I just think that they're just kind of like allies in the struggle. But I think once the struggle is over, they're the next enemy. They always have been. Like anytime they get power, it's like, all right, at least I'm going to pay less in taxes. Maybe, they'll ban something I don't like, like they'll try to restrict, alcohol sales or something, but whatever. Like I'll deal with that.
At least I got the government out of my Social Security.
Right. But then they come in and be like, oh, we're going to war with everybody.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. To be fair, like the last Republican we got wasn't. I honestly believe that Donald Trump is the best president we've ever had in my lifetime, but that's not to say that he's good. He's not. He was just, the bar is so low.
Well, it's a low bar, but I mean, like there's a lot of stuff that I criticize Trump for, but it's not really any of the stuff that the left criticizes him for.
Yeah,
it's like he did there was a lot of deregulation that went on. Where they were just, he was signing executive orders and getting rid of like Obama era regulations, and like he really did some incredible stuff, which is one of the reasons that the economy was doing so well before COVID hit. Was they were basically just taking a flamethrower to the Federal Register.
But they could have done better.
An article,
which I saw one from Reason that were like, he's doing a great job. He can do so much more, but he's not going on it. I don't know why.
There was the best headline I ever saw was that it was like, fact check, Donald Trump promised that for every one regulation they passed, they would remove 2. What he actually did was remove 8 for every one that he passed. I was like, that's awesome. Fact checked.
Excellent. Love it. But don't die. Oh, your dog gave you the coof now.
That. Yeah, I got the coof too.
You're dead.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like the trial was emblematic of a much bigger struggle, and I think that everyone, whatever the verdict ended up being, there was going to be a message sent, and it was either going to be, you are not allowed to defend yourself, and if you do defend yourself, you're going to prison for the rest of your life, or you do have the right to defend yourself, and you do have the right to defend your community. Yeah. And we got the verdict that I think was not only just, but desperately kind of needed. And I do think that it's a message sent to any would-be rioters that, it's not going to be tolerated.
Yep. And by the way, it's so I have a white pill and I have a very tiny little baby black pill that's not really a black pill. It's more of like a black sprinkle, or hundreds of thousands if you're from the UK. Just one black's hundreds and thousands, so just one. And okay.
Well, I'm not from that shithole country, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you were from another shithole country called New York. By the way, welcome to Texas.
No, I'm from California, and then I moved to New York, and now I'm a Texan.
See, at least my transition to Texas was a lot better because it was
I've lived in multiple shitholes.
Yeah, so I went from California to Kansas to back to California, and then I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this place sucks. Then I went to Las Vegas, which is basically like, we're California, but we could let you have guns and also blackjack and hookers. And then it's stopped being that because of the governor just came in and just destroyed everything using COVID as an excuse. And I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And now I'm in St. Anthony, which I fucking love this place. I can get margaritas at a drive-thru. It's fucking amazing.
It's awesome. I love Texas. I'm never leaving.
The only thing that sucks is there's almost nothing open 24 hours. That really
is
annoying.
true. That really does suck. It's not even that. It's like a lot of restaurants close at 9 p.m. Like,
yes.
What is this? Like sometimes on like a Friday night, I want to go to dinner at 9 or at 10.
Yeah. But Whataburger is open 24 hours, and it's like, fuck, is that really the only thing?
And it's
Jack in the Box closes. What kind of backwards ass place is this?
I don't know.
Everywhere in the world that it exists, it's 24 hours. What happened?
I don't know. It's definitely a quirk of Texas that I don't like. But the other positives so overwhelm everything else that I can live with it.
Yeah, it's great. By the way, I still haven't got my driver's license and card plates done, and it's been 3 months. Oof. But whatever. I
will say here the it's not the DMV, it's the DPS, Department of Public Safety. They are polite and relatively efficient here.
Really?
It's nothing like California. It's nothing like New York.
Oh,
it was actually downright pleasant when I went. So it was like.
So I had been to the DMV in LA because I lived in Hollywood Hills for a while, 9 months. I thought it would be awesome living in Hollywood Hills. It's not. It's fucking awful. I almost hit Kathy Griffin a few times. I probably could have prevented the whole head thing from happening. Not even joking. I almost ran her over while she was jogging. But anyways, but yeah, that was a fucking nightmare. But it didn't hold a candle to the quote unquote best DMV in Las Vegas. Holy shit. Holy shit. On their light days, right? I always went like, what's the best time to go? Like you would see a line wrapped around the building like it was fucking in and out like 2 hours before the place opened. Like, are you kidding me? And the place is giant. Yeah. Still, you're going to be in there for at least 2 hours. Optimal, probably about 3. Yeah. It's like a day. It's like you have to take a day off of work almost. It's that kind of an ordeal. It's a mess. So I'm glad. But I like Texas. It's great. But anyways, getting back to what I was trying to say. So the big white pill is that I started noticing right away, which like people like Crowder and a lot of these conservative types, which they'll be the enemy as soon as they get any kind of power. They were going right off the bat and saying, like, if Rittenhouse gets acquitted, that sends a message to everybody that it's okay to defend yourselves from these, violent rioters. And this good thing, which that was already there. They're just finally getting the message about it because, it's a highly publicized trial. The black pill is that I started noticing a lot of communists saying the same thing too. I have a feeling that a lot of these people, since you keep seeing like faces of Antifa, I don't know if you've seen any of these things. It's like faces of meth.
It's like looking at the Uruk-hai from fucking Lord of the Rings.
It's like faces of meth. It really is. Like a lot of them look like they're on meth.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah. How many of these people got convictions that are going to be prevented from getting a gun legally? And how many of these people, these nerdy Twitter posters that do most of their activism on Twitter, even know anybody who could get a gun under the table? Probably a very small percentage. Yeah. So I'm very kind of optimistic in that fact. I think they're going to be very much ineffective. By the way, this isn't the first time. Like Steven Crowder did like a little undercover sting, which he thought was just going to be a nice little shit post video. Like, oh, we're infiltrated Antifa. Like, oh, this is going to be funny. And then it turned out they were like, oh, I have guns in my car right now. Let's go shoot Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, I saw that.
They were like, oh, fuck, what did we get ourselves into? I mean, so they were already kind of doing that. But still, I think... I don't think we're going to see like straight up shootouts in the streets, which, by the way, it has happened between Antifa and like the Proud Boys and stuff. But it's been really rare, and I don't think I think what's going to end up happening,
small scale. Yeah, you're not going to see like militias fighting each other in the street.
Yeah, because one side has a militia, the other one's going to have sporadic people who may have gotten their hands on a gun.
They're gonna have
and it's not gonna end
drug
well.
addicts. Yeah, I do think that you're gonna see a lot more people. You know, if riots happen, there's gonna be a lot more people showing up to protect places, and I think that is on its own just gonna deter most of this stuff because they know it will happen. And that's not to say that like everyone is always going to be acting in self-defense and acting properly. And like the whole thing about riots is that they're just chaos, you know? And so like, it's just utter nihilistic destruction. And anyone who is trying to tell you otherwise, is essentially just covering and supporting evil.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around this.
Yep.
These people too. I mean, it's like they spent last year. They knew because they were saying things like, you know, these people whose businesses are getting burned down, they have insurance, they can pay for this.
They don't.
Of course, that didn't happen.
Yeah,
a lot of them were underinsured, and especially underinsured for the kind of destruction that they faced. Like there was articles where it's like Minneapolis, the places that got burned, they're fucked. They're never coming back. Those neighborhoods have been permanently made worse because those people, their insurance didn't even cover the cost of hauling away the rubble of their buildings. And like, who on earth would ever invest money in these places that have been burned to the ground?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
No.
Especially if it's like, oh, the police are just going to let this happen. Like, are you insane? Why would I ever invest in that community now?
Yeah.
And it's tragic and it's evil. And this whole thing of like property, you know, people's lives are worth more than property and whatnot. It's like people's lives are tied up in their property.
Yeah.
You know, my life isn't just my pulse. It's not me just drawing breath. There's a lot more to it than that.
And what's weird is I see a lot of people who like post Sterner memes and they post them like, oh yeah, I really like Sterner. And then they go right afterwards like, oh, life is more valuable than property. It's like, first of all, I think you need to go back and read Sterner again, because Sterner talks about how you live through your property. Your body is your property.
Is your property. I know.
And that you only exist through your property and the things that you own and the things that you can keep and defend off from evil and from thieves. Like, he talks about this at great mind-numbing length only because he's just kind of, you know, making a point about Hegel and how autistic he is. But but like, he goes through great detail to try to explain this to you. And still, like, it's just right over their heads. I think the vast majority of people who say they love Sterner never read Sterner. I think the vast majority, they just
I've never read Sterner and I don't like him.
Exactly. By the way, I think Michael Ballas put the wrong chapter of Sterner in that book. I really do. Yeah. Because I heard...
I haven't even read it.
So Patrick,
I read like two parts of it.
So Patrick Smith, who runs Disenthrall, who took over Anarchast, which we've talked about Anarchast and how we're huge fans of Anarchasts. Sarcasm. Actually, it's a good show now that Jeff Berwick doesn't run it. It has nothing to do with it. But... He was doing a reading where he was just reading and then commentating in between the readings, and he read Sterner, and he towards the end of it he was like he was making things, he was like Sterner's talking about things which only make sense if you had read the chapters before, or that he clarifies in later chapters in that particular chapter. And there was a lot of us who have read Sterner was like, that was not the good chapter. There was a lot of good chapters that you could just section out and be like, this is perfect. There's a few that are really bad. Especially if you have no understanding of Hegel, because I still don't have any real understanding of Hegel. So there's portions of the book where it just kind of like, my eyes just kind of glaze over, like, what are you even talking about? But I guess if you have read Hegel and you understand Hegel, it's a good bit of satire to kind of show you how Hegel is wrong. Like, I guess he was really good at that. So I'm told. I don't want to read Hegel.
I got to stop you right now. There's someone in the chat that said Jim low-key justifying gun control.
What? How was that?
What? I have no idea.
Oh no. This is why I don't read chat.
Then someone says based shootouts.
Oh.
Evil like violence is both necessary and inevitable. Wrong.
But
okay,
anyway.
I'm not going to look at the chat anymore.
I love the chat.
Anyone listening to this is like got mental problems anyway.
Yeah. So for those of you who just listen to the podcast only, we've actually been streaming the raw format live, and then we take it down and then we edit it for the podcast. So if you want to get super chats in, now would be the time. You just gave away some free super chats. Thanks for that. Anyways.
Oh, sorry. Whoops.
But yeah, I think that it's good that the next time we're going to get one of these, shootings that obviously the cop was, in the wrong. And then we find out later, like, oh, no, everything that the media said about this shooting was completely fucking wrong and a lie.
Right.
Like Jacob Blake.
And this is
So let's talk about Jacob Blake, for example. So Jacob Blake he had a restraining order. So a lot of people don't talk about this.
Jacob Blake, the reason the Kenosha riot happened was because an individual named Jacob Blake was shot by the police several times.
What was his name again? I forgot already.
Jacob Blake.
Okay, so Jacob Blake. Just want to make sure everyone knows. Jacob Blake.
Right.
So Jacob Blake, he was shot in the back 7 times by police officers. And if you watch the video, you're going to be like, oh, man, that's awful that the cops just shot him in the back. Well, I'm only going to go off this information. Clearly, the cops were in the wrong. But if you actually understand the whole situation that was going on. So first of all, he had a restraining order against him for rape, for digital grape, which people think like, what did you,
it doesn't mean online.
Yeah, it doesn't mean online. It means your fingers, because those are digits.
Yeah, your digits.
So yeah, he fingered him. Yeah, he digitally raped his ex or his baby's mama. And then he was planning to steal her car with her kids in it and kidnap the kids as well, while there was a knife in the car, and had been making threats and was threatening to beat her up. And she called the police. And when she called the police, she wasn't like, my ex or whatever was. She was like, Jacob Blake is at my house. And the reason why she said Jacob Blake is because she had called the police many times and they recognized his name. And so they sent out squad cars like as fast as they could. So he was about ready to kidnap a bunch of kids with a knife in the car. I think he ended up having a knife on him as well, and steal a car. And by law, the cops cannot let him take off with those kids. They cannot do it. So they had to shoot.
Kidnap someone.
Yes. So that was a good shoot. That's the right term for it.
100%.
It was a good shoot.
He didn't even die.
No, he's paralyzed.
And his baby mama said afterwards, like, he deserved way worse.
Yeah.
All this stuff. All you people defending him are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this guy was not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination. So he gets shot.
And by the way, Jacob Huber?
Was friends with this guy. So this kind of the caliber.
And by the way, he was also guilty of domestic violence as well. He beat the shit out of the lady who was put on the stand to give a character witness about how great of a kid he was. He beat the shit out of him.
Here's the thing about Kyle is, like, this kid, not only was he put into like this impossible circumstance, and he performed, like you said earlier, I don't think I could have performed as well as he did and as lawful as he did. But the guy is a fucking warrior poet. He shoots the pedo in the groin. That's where one of the bullets hit.
Good.
He shoots the domestic abuser through the heart. And he shoots the thief in the arm. Like, this is literally poetry.
Yes. Oh, it gets even more gutter. Where was this thing that I pulled up earlier? That was just so great. Oh, did I pass it? No. But someone actually did a little bit of numerology, and I thought it was quite clever.
Great.
If I can pull this up. When was this? I know I posted it yesterday. So it has to be in the food court, which, by the way, I have a Discord. You can join using discord.lolberts.com. Read the rules. And I swear I will ban anybody who refers to Richard Spencer as anything but official CNN commentator Richard B. Spencer. By the way, I can't find it. Yeah, it was great. I don't know what happened to it. Did I delete it? Oh, geez. Anyways.
We can find it later.
Yeah, I'll post it in the description box when this episode comes out tomorrow. I'll post it. I'll post the meme in the description box, which you can only see if you go to the website Lolberts.com. So I don't think we have any super chats for today. Do you want to plug your stuff?
I mean, yeah, you can check out my YouTube channel, T3HSAUCE, the sauce. But I am going to be actually making content again soon. But here's the twist. I hate YouTube. So I'm moving over to Odyssey entirely. So Odyssey, my videos will come out there. And then probably 4 or 5 days after that, they'll be posted to YouTube.
Good.
So if you want to see my stuff, go to Odyssey and find my channel. It's the same thing, T3HSAUCE, the sauce.
I think you should follow my Odyssey because I post more stuff on Odyssey than I do my actual channel now.
It's just, I mean, honestly, I'm not just trying to sell Odyssey because Drew's my friend. But it's, in my opinion, a much better platform. It's very much more like what YouTube used to be. The only thing that is kind of holding it back at the moment, in my opinion, is that the technology is not quite as good as YouTube's. You know, YouTube has been around forever and has the Google money and the YouTube money. So technologically, it's just in a better place, whereas Odyssey's more of a startup. But they're getting better and better.
More gooder.
The first time I tried to watch more gooder, yeah. The first time I tried to watch a live stream on it, the app just crashed on my phone. But now the live streams work, and I can watch videos. It's great. It's just a better platform, and you can get paid there too. You don't have to, rely on YouTube taking all your money if you're a streamer or whatever. I love Odyssey. I hate YouTube.
Yeah, me too. But I do post on here only because that's where everyone's eyeball is, and
exactly.
I always try to get them to go
at the moment.
Go to Odyssey at Jim Jesus at the sauce. I think you're the sauce on there, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. Do you have a Twitter?
No.
Oh,
why would you?
I'm just wondering.
Why would you even
curious.
ask that?
I'm just curious. I don't know. I've been having a great time talking to myself, by the way. Yeah. Anyways. I guess we'll wrap up here. Worms. Hail Satan, all that jazz.